Horror. Yes. Horror movies and everything. October is here. Thanks for coming back around to the channel. And you know what? I picked out, I want to say I did the top, or not a top 10, but a 10 picks of at least what's in my collection. Of course, my collection is fairly modest compared to some of those huge hardcore horror fans. I am one of you, but I maybe don't have quite the collection. But it's a work in progress. We're always scouring you know, like for me, I'm always scouring those the old record stores and whatever's left in, at least in my town, which you know, unfortunately, it feels like the physical media stores are such a dying breed, but we strive so hard. And anytime like, you know, movies come up, and I always try to hit the used record stores that carry records, CDs, DVDs. Of course, you know, I'm from the VHS days, but those days unfortunately are gone. But I try to always buy the physical media from them to support and, you know, keep them floating. But anyway, I picked out some 10 movies that I feel like are for your horror and Halloween month, October here, that maybe not got the spotlight perhaps that, you know, where everybody knows about the slasher movies and, you know, your key guys and all that out there. You know, you got your you know, Leatherface and Freddy and Chucky and Michael Myers and all that kind of stuff, which is the greatest. But here's some other ones that you may or may not know of that I have chosen out of my collection that I have that I could think of, and mostly for the most part because you know, I'm a product of the 80s, that a lot of my stuff that is from that era and not you know, kind of dips in a little bit into the 90s. But and then we got some new ones in there that you know, I'm not much for newer stuff, but there is some out there that's actually pretty good. So without further ado, here we go. No particular order. First one up is called The Prowler. Great film. Tom Savini did the special effects in this. This is back when he was really hitting his stride going forward. I think this is very early 80s, 81 or so. The Prowler is one of those just gore fest slasher movies that may have flown under the radar in some, or maybe, you know, it is fairly known, but may have flown under that radar that you may have forgotten about. Prowler. Basically, it's like this army dude, you know, kind of dressed up thing. I forget exactly the backstory. I haven't seen it for a bit. But he's going around and he's, you know, he's nailing people with pitchforks, bayonets, and all that kind of stuff. And of course, the effects in it being done by the master Tom Savini is just absolutely phenomenal. When you turn it over, and I remember seeing this on VHS and seeing the guy with the splatter on the wall behind him. It's just really cool stuff. So if you really want to see Tom Savini's work, is definitely showcased at its best in The Prowler. So there you go. The Prowler is definitely good. This one's by Blue Underground. You can still find it. I wouldn't say it's a really super common movie to find, at least in my neck of the woods. But I believe I did run across this in the record store, and I picked it up. So really cool one. I do like it. And they do kind of do that, you know, that slasher hunting of the monster, if you will. But then, you know, in the end, like I said, but the end, if you haven't seen it, boy, the end effect is probably, I love that, because Tom Savini always had that kind of mentality. He said, you know, boy, if this is what they're showing us now, I wonder what they're going to really show us in the end. So always great showmanship. All right, next up on the list is a double feature. This one's come from Scream Factory. Excellent company. They've been doing a phenomenal job of re-releasing stuff. And this one is Tales from the Crypt and Vault of Horror. These were in the 70s. This is just, even though it's kind of, it's almost kind of goofy for today's, I mean, definitely by today's standards. But this is a really cool collection of films, little short stories and everything. This definitely predates the 1990s Tales from the Crypt TV show that was featuring the voice of John Kassir that everybody knows. This is really where it kind of almost began. These are really awesome. I really like it. One of my favorite episodes, without a doubt, is The Blind School, where the guy goes in and he's like the new guy laying down the law in the blind school, and it has the older guy from Clockwork Orange in it, and he's like the lead guy in the blind school. But anyway, the new guy, he kind of takes over and he says, oh, this is all the new rules and regulations. Start cutting their rations down. Of course, he's just a jerk in it, and gets what he pays, gets what he deserves. So anyway, really cool collection. That one is the one that stands out the most to me. You got to get the Scream Factory releasing of it, because I actually had the DVD one before this, and for whatever its reasoning, this movie was censored, if you can believe that. Again, by today's standards, it's really nothing, but you got to get the Scream Factory edition to see it uncensored and everything. I believe the one that was uncensored was, I want to say it was the Tales from the Crypt one. Oh no, it was Vault of Horror. That's right. That was the one that was heavily censored. So anyway, another good pick that may have flown under the radar. Next one up is just for a good old time, really. Not so much a horror movie, but I feel like it was just had to be added to this list because I am a big fan of Kane Hodder. Kane Hodder is such an awesome individual. What he's done in the horror business, and obviously to me, because my very first Friday the 13th movie I ever saw was Part 7 with Kane Hodder. I saw that on Joe Bob Briggs' Monster Vision on TNT back in the day. But to me, Kane Hodder is Jason, because he brought that character, and that's all, everything. I always recognize you can always tell when he's playing Jason versus somebody else. Not trashing on the other folks that played him and portrayed him, but Kane Hodder is definitely, for me, the Jason guy. And I just love just how he is. You can totally tell when you just see his stuff in his conventions and everything like that. He is such a cool dude. I've never had the pleasure of meeting him, although I've gone to a lot of stuff. I met Ash from The Evil Dead, obviously Bruce Campbell, Don Coscarelli, the director of Phantasm, absolutely down-to-earth people, my idol, and just... the only time I was super starstruck was really when I met Henry Rollins. But anyway, Kane Hodder, awesome dude. The Killer and I. This is one of those. This is kind of like a weird, goofy series that they did. They call it a reality series. He's along with Michael Alosi, which is the author Mike, he calls him, in it. This is just a really cool set of just watching Kane Hodder and Mike go through just state from state, and then also all the way up to Europe and stuff, and pulling shenanigans and everything. This really gives you a nice in-look of like just how pretty awesome it would be to hang out with Kane Hodder, horror icon that he is, everything. So this is just really neat. I just thought that when I first saw this, and each one is like in little segments, you watch it, and really it's just about them two going around and just having a ball. I tell you, this little road trip that they must have took, it must have just been a riot, because Kane Hodder is just awesome in it. And of course, if you're a big fan of Kane Hodder, this is almost a must. You got to see this, because this is a playful, just a fun comedy, just to laugh at it. And I tell you, I'm so glad this is in my collection, because this is a really cool video series. It's a 13 10-minute episodes. That's what it is there. All right. Next one here is, I think, another one that is kind of flown under the radar a little bit. I saw this. I can't exactly remember how I saw it. I don't remember if it was on TV or we rented it on videotape. But always remembered it over the years, and it still holds as one of the cool ones. And that would be Night of the Demons. I think there's like 3 of these altogether, but the first one is the one that is definitely on my list. Angela is having a party. Jason and Freddy are too scared to come, but you'll have a hell of a time. This is a really awesome movie. Night of the Demons. I always remembered the guy with the pig nose. He's got this like pig nose, and he wears it and everything. Obviously, all these group of friends, they go to this place, and possession happens. So it's like kind of like that. It really has that vibe of Evil Dead. So another great mention. But yeah, this is really cool. They all get possessed and turned into demons. They're running around. Such a cool classic Fright Fest, you know, and just the old school makeups, pure 80s ooze. Night of the Demons, definitely on the list. Just one of those that's just awesome that I think just kind of slips on by. All right, the next one up, I believe, is done in the 90s, and I do recall this one. I do recall seeing it on the Monster Vision television, because I remember Joe Bob Briggs talking about the entire full body suit that this fellow wears. Actually, it's the awesome actor of Everett McGill that did 2 horror movies. That's definitely on my list of stuff. This is one of them. The other one was the Silver Bullet. People Under the Stairs. Wes Craven's People Under the Stairs. Awesome movie. It's like, you know, Home Alone meets a horror movie. Say No More. If you haven't seen that, this is an awesome film to see. You are in for a treat if you've never seen it. I've seen it a bunch of times, and it never gets tiring to see this. So again, it's like really, it's like almost like Home Alone on you know, in a horror setting. So again, once again, Scream Factory releasing. Did an awesome job with this collector's edition. I love the reverse cover, because this is the actual VHS tape cover that I would have remembered from the VHS days. Basically, they try to rob this house in the ghetto. Has come to figure that the people that run it have been sucking all the money out of the ghetto, and they're a wealthy bunch. And they have a dark secret and a dark house, and the house is full of weird, interesting surprises going through walls. And you cannot ever forget Everett McGill's full leather bodysuit. Why? Who knows? Maybe we don't want to know. All right, Motel Hell. Another just 80s. You could tell it was probably pretty, you know, I don't know what kind of budget they were working with. This is just a cool, it's got the full-blown Texas Chainsaw Massacre vibe. It takes all kinds of critters to make Farmer Vincent's fritters. Yes, and it pretty much, you can imagine what it is. It's a little bit of a twist, but it still has that Texas Chainsaw Massacre vibe in a sense of human barbecue. Yes, but he's harvesting people and turning them into barbecue. You got the awesome chainsaw duel thing in the end. Again, you know, it's really got a lot of influence from the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It has the feel and the grit to it. It does kind of have that vibe to it. Not quite as well done as, you know, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, because that just, you almost can't touch that for its grittiness and rawness. But the Motel Hell comes real close. Especially, how could you forget the pig mask that he wears? So if you haven't seen that, that's another awesome one on it. And it's got I always forget her name, Nancy Parsons, plays just a phenomenal character in it. She's just really good in it. And then, of course, Rory Calhoun. And I actually, in the special features I read, he actually really wanted to do this movie. He was really passionate about it, which is completely, in a sense, off color for him, considering where his background was and all the old westerns and stuff that he was doing prior to this. So another really cool one. There you go. I got a secret, and I use preservatives. All right, next up on the list, we're going a little bit more modern. And I gotta say, this is just I'm gonna warn you, if you haven't seen this and you're gonna watch it, this movie's whacked out beyond belief. I gotta say, it's the most wackiest, I don't know, it makes almost no sense. It's almost like this is what would happen if you just, I don't know. I don't even, you know, it's like you were just in another zone, in another dimension when you wrote this. That would be Mandy. Nicolas Cage and Mandy. It's got also Andrea Riseborough. Beautiful, beautiful actress. And they had to, like, the makeup they had to do to her in this. But Mandy is just, I don't really know what to say about this. This is just violent as all can be. You got some other supporting cast in it. They have smaller parts, but rememberable parts. That would be, obviously, you got to mention first is the I always know him from Cook, from Commando, and obviously, you know, he's in Predator. That would be Bill Duke. Bill Duke, always a standout actor, and Richard Brake in this. Gosh, what do we say about this? Oh man, you have to watch it for yourself if you haven't seen it. But completely bizarre, wacky movie. All right, next one up is just another one of those, just kind of an honorable, you know, mention. It's known, but maybe again, maybe not on your list, or maybe you kind of went, oh, you know what? That is a interesting horror take. Stepfather series, yes. Stepfather 3 has not got onto DVD or physical media, and I think I actually have a boot. Yeah, Stepfather 3 I own, but it's a bootleg copy. So on disc, because it really hadn't gotten on, it hasn't made its way to physical media for whatever reason. Probably somebody's holding the rights to it. But Terry O'Quinn, Stepfather series, you know, again, this one came from my local record store. Just saw it, had to buy it. Part 1 and Part 2, I would say, are the better. I do kind of favor Part 2. I don't know why, but Part 2 is really really interesting. But it's kind of basically what you think. He's a psychopathic killer, portrays somebody, he's just dying to get a family going and ends up butchering them. Stepfather. And I always like how they end up. It's just one of those, I always like how they end up just getting him in the end. How are they going to get him? Next one up, going again modern a little bit here, which is kind of a sleeper, I would say. Kind of a sleeper, because it totally seems like something that was thrown together, in a sense, just kind of, it's got that Blair Witch, not as shaky as the Blair Witch, nowhere as near as shaky as Blair Witch, but it's got that vibe to it, but with effects, great effects. That would be Adam Green, Digging Up the Marrow. If you haven't seen this, this is actually a sleeper film. It's better than you think, and it keeps you engaged. There's these creatures they come from under the ground, and it's really well done. It doesn't seem like it when you're first kind of watching it, but it's really well done. And of course, it's got Kane Hodder in it. Kane Hodder playing Kane Hodder, Digging Up the Marrow. Adam Green, wonderful special effects. Last on the list, which I would say again, this is one that maybe have gotten bypassed and nobody really, maybe, I don't know how well known it is, but it became one of my favorites of the bunch, and really it's because the actor makes it, and that is The Exorcist 3. It's got George C. Scott, and he does a really good job in it, but for whatever, I don't know, this is, and of course it's got Brad Dourif. This is a really good one. I like it a lot. George C. Scott is the reason this movie's good, and he has some really awesome sequences in it. One that stands out for sure. It's all about this mental hospital, and there's a guy in there that is basically, he's the police officer that from the first one. What was it? I forget his name that he portrays. Kinderman. And so George C. Scott's donning that role, and it resurrects the priest, Father Damien, from it, and so there he's in there and everything. So really a good movie. There's a couple scenes in there that his friend Father Dyer, he's in the hospital and he's not doing well, and he starts like arguing with him. He goes, "Are you sure it's not serious?" And he's doing his George C. Scott thing, and the nurse comes in there, "Everything okay?" He goes, "We're fine," And then there's this another sequence where he's like all of the blood from his friend has been removed from the body and put into little jars and stacked neatly up in the little room. And of course his buddy's dead and he's not happy about it. And there's this scene where he's like, "What are those?" And he goes that, and nobody really wants to answer him. You can tell they're just standing there. He's kind of a hothead in it. So he's like, "What are those?" And they're just standing there, and they go, And finally, one guy just he finally just goes, "That is Father Dyer's entire blood supply." And he's like, "All of his blood?" So anyway, there's a couple scenes in there that just, I don't know. I know it's not supposed to be funny. You're not supposed to laugh at it. It's just kind of funny. So all right, and you know what? I got a wild card for you before we end the show. I got a wild card for you, and it became instantly one of my favorites because of the vibe of the film. It's just got, throughout the entire movie, it has got a real creepy vibe to it, and I like it. It's really. It's got a lot of Silence of the Lambs vibe to it, tone. It's set in the 90s, and I just like it. They did a really good job with it. And the man himself, he almost, I mean, just when you think he can't outdo himself, he does something like this. And we're talking about Long Legs with Nicolas Cage. I don't know how to pronounce her name. Micah Monroe. Boy, she does a good job in it. She is a really phenomenal actress, and she just did a good job in it. If you like serial killer chasing down movies, this is one to see. Has a twist. You almost can't see it coming, but I've watched it. I watched it twice in the theater. And when it came out, I was definitely ordered it in right when it came out, and I've seen it a couple times now on physical, the DVD or Blu-ray or whatever. But Long Legs is definitely one to see. I'm not even going to tell you about it because you'll have to see it. So anyway, there you go. I'm gonna get out of here. There's your picks. Halloween's here.